Hey, everybody. Welcome to From the Kitchen Table. I'm Sean Duffy.
And I'm Rachel Campos Duffy. And we are so excited to have you around our kitchen table talking about some of the hottest topics of the day. And it seems like our former president, Barack Obama, is weighing in on some of the hot topics we talk about at our table, Sean.
Yeah, so just recently he sat down with Anderson Cooper from CNN, and they had a wide-ranging conversation touching on a lot of issues, but some of them were about why Republicans need to be doing more to push back against the narrative of the election was stolen in 2020, which, by the way, he never made that recommendation to Democrats as they pushed back on Donald Trump's victory in 2016, right? That was not his position then. But also, Obama expressed some concern about the broader conversation about critical race theory in America as well.
That's right. He says that we really shouldn't be that worried about it, that Republicans are obsessing about it. So let's just actually play the clip and see what he says.
I also think that there are certain right-wing media venues, for example, that monetize and capitalize on stoking the fear and resentment of a white population that is witnessing a changing America and seeing demographic changes, and do everything they can to give people a sense that their way of life is threatened and that people are trying to take advantage of them. And we're seeing it right now, right? Where you would think, with all the public policy debates that are taking place right now, that the Republican Party would be engaged in a significant debate about how are we going to deal with the economy, and what are we going to do about climate change, and what are we going to do about, lo and behold, the single most important issue to them apparently right now is critical race theory. Who knew that was the threat to our republic? But those debates are powerful because they get at what story do we tell about ourselves?
Wow, there's so much to unpack in that clip right there. So first, if Barack Obama says, don't worry about critical race theory, it's not really an issue, it's a fake issue, I'm going to be worried about critical race theory, because this is the guy who says he wants to fundamentally transform America. But then what's interesting is at the very end of that clip, he actually gives it away, because he says, this gets to the heart of the stories we tell about ourselves. And I'll tell you, the story Barack Obama wants us, and especially our children, to tell about America is that it's systemically racist, that, it's irredeemable, that, you can't make it in America, that the American dream is dead, that, there are oppressors and oppressed. And it's the opposite message that you and I believe about America. And he's trying to change the story of America with all of his buddies on the left, and they're doing it through the schools.
What I found interesting too is that he's saying that Republicans are concerned with, a changing America, right? The face of America is changing, and Republicans feel threatened by that.
Right. They're clinging to their Bibles and their guns. Remember that?
That's, right, exactly. Do I feel threatened? Do I know people who feel threatened by the changing face of America? Not at all. I think what people feel threatened by is the fact that we're teaching kids in school to be little racists, to actually hate
reverse
themselves and hate white men, and to say that just because of your gender and the color of your skin, we're gonna give you certain traits. You're a white supremacist, you're a racist, you're an oppressor, right? That's offensive. And so if we're offended that people want to inflict racism and racial beliefs on a certain class of people, meaning mine, white males, it's okay for us to be offended by that and to push back on it, to go, you know what? We actually believe in the Martin Luther King philosophy that we should judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. And so why don't we go back to that philosophy instead of saying every white man is bad, every white man is a suppressor, and we want to teach everyone in America to hate them?
This all started at the university. I mean, I still remember back in the 90s, a lot of my classes, especially my history classes, my Latin American history classes, my American history classes were all about, racism. It was like there's this strain in academia where they hate America, frankly. I mean, let's
Right.
just be really frank. They hate America, and they want Americans to hate each other with this racial division. They don't want racial harmony. Barack Obama doesn't want racial harmony. He never has done anything to bring that about. But it's so ironic coming from this man who was born from a father who was from Africa, a single mom from Kansas. He rises up. He goes to Harvard Law School. He ends up becoming a U.S. senator, a U.S. president, elected twice by all these racist Americans, apparently. By the way, our district, which is fairly heavily white, where we live here, rural Wisconsin, voted for Barack Obama the first time. Now, they didn't vote for him the second time because he didn't do a good job the first time. But there was no racism here. Our district was rural and white, and they voted for Barack Obama. So and then he leaves the presidency and goes on to become wildly wealthy. Barack Obama is at Netflix now creating this whole new series on civics, and I don't trust it at all. I liked Schoolhouse Rock. Remember that in the 70s where we learned about the bills and how they were passed?
I'm just a bill.
Yeah, I don't trust anything coming from the Obamas about civics, but he's wildly wealthy. He's the vision of the American dream, and yet he's criticizing America.
Yeah, but I think it's fair to make a point to go, is there is there financial inequity between races in America? And I think the answer to that is yes.
Yes, there is.
And so,
and why?
So if you want to bring more equality, not equity, but more equality, across the country,
and opportunity, and
right, it's fair to take a look and say, well, what's working and what isn't. And where Barack Obama and the left is going is the way they want to bring in more equality is to oppress who they see as being successful. So the successful white males, we want to oppress them, bring them down. And they think in their minds that if they do that, that somehow will elevate minority classes.
Right, through affirmative action and everything else.
And the bottom line is that never works, right?
Yeah.
When we take the fastest runner and put a weight vest on them, that doesn't make the slower runner any faster. It makes the fastest runner slower. And so I want to go back a second, because since the Great Society, and this is when I think this started, right? The inequities. Since the Great Society, over the last 50 years, do you know how much money we've spent on poverty programs in America, Rachel?
I know it's a lot.
$22 trillion we have spent on poverty programs. And the do-good liberal would be like, these are really great programs. This is going to help poor people lift themselves up.
Yeah, they'll say I want my tax dollars spent that way.
Yeah. Less financially stressed. And so they thought they were doing great on the part of poor Americans. And a lot of these were minorities, right? The problem was that when they spent all that money, it changed the culture in the communities that receive the dollars. So if traditionally, when we had babies, the only way for success is people got married and they raised their babies, and you had a mom and a dad, maybe one working, one raising kids, maybe both working, but making ends meet, instilling values and principles into their kids, going to church. Well, since the Great Society, we've seen an unraveling of communities and families, because now you don't need the family structure any longer. You have the government to back you up.
The government is the baby daddy.
It's the baby daddy. That's right. And then you saw the left also promote a lack of values. Don't go to church. Church doesn't matter.
Take God out of school, right? Take moral values out of our society.
And I think we've seen not a strengthening of community cultures and families. I think we've seen a rot from these policies that has happened. Listen,
the Black family has collapsed. I mean, you have I think it's near 75% fatherlessness in the Hispanic community. It's getting there as well. And it's all because of those policies. You're right.
Point. Before the Great Society, before we spent all this money, the strongest family in America by race was the Black family.
Yeah, they were intact.
And now it's, to your point, there are 70% of kids being raised in fatherless homes. I think we have to look at that on top of the fact that we have to look at the school systems. So the left, the do-gooders who love teachers' unions, won't let parents in failing schools get out with school choice, right? They keep them in failing schools where kids don't get a good education. They don't know math and science. They can't read. And so instead of give the kid a path out because we know the pathway to the middle class or to higher income is a great education, no, they keep them locked in to failing schools because the Democrats are paying off teachers' unions.
For the full podcast, go to foxnewspodcast.com.